we recommend you take this moment to do what we're about to do, which is enjoy an Alp.
Взял? Вон он идет. Вот он. Нет? Вот эти все режут. Падает, падает. Ага.
Segundo, salud mental. El principal problema en Bogotá, en Colombia.
It's just, it's so wild keeping track of both of these scenes.
This is erupting violence there in New York City. This is all outside of a federal building. That officer holding her eye. A person seemingly being detained.
One woman, hands behind her back, being detained by officers.
Fucking do it. Do it from point blank, Adler.
Leave the area.
I will, but go ahead. Go ahead, dude. Raise that fucking gun to me again.
Move. Let's move.
You gotta chill the fuck out, Adler. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck. Chill the fuck out. Chill the fuck out. Chill out. Back down, Adler, you little fucking bitch. You're a little punk. You're a fucking punk ass. Shut your fucking mouth, Adler. Shut your fucking mouth. Don't ever raise your fucking gun to me like that again.
Welcome back to the SCIF. You should realize, folks, we're at war. We have been invaded. Now the fun part starts. We're just getting started here. 20 million people into the United States in the last 4 years, many of them not good, bad hombres, as the president would say. There are cells located across the United States waiting to activate, and it's going to get very scary and violent, and you need to be prepared. And if you're watching this show, you're gonna be prepared. You know, when I was going through survival training, resistance and escape training for being a pilot in the Air Force, one of the instructors drilled into us, you have to have the will to survive. So we're going to see if the United States, I don't know if Europe has the will to survive. I think they're gone, many parts of it. But we're going to see if the United States, the good old United States of America, has the will to survive. So we're going to talk about that. I want to say welcome to the crew. Thank you for joining us today. You're cleared hot in the chat. Really appreciate all of the engagement and all of that stuff and following the show. Thanks to all our new listeners and viewers in India. We've got a big group growing over there. Thank you for joining us this morning. And really appreciate just all the support that's coming in, emails, feedback on the show. The show's growing, and we really appreciate it. Got another loaded one for you today. We're going to talk about all this with someone who knows, Dan O'Shea, commander, former SEAL, commander, U.S. Navy, and retired, obviously, but was heavily involved in the insurgency in Iraq and knows a lot about hostage taking and everything else. And that is, you know, you need to realize that's coming, right? I mean, they're here. They're among us, as they would say in the movies. And it's going to be hostages. It's going to be attacks on daycares. It's going to be shutting down the economy, attacks on supermarkets. It's going to be riots. It's going to be crime. It's all coming, folks. We let it happen, unfortunately. Now we're going to see if we have the will to survive as a people, as a republic, as a society, as a culture. That's where we're at. And then we're going to dig into what happened in Georgia over the weekend. Really talk about, you know, we try to give you the big picture, the overview of what's happening across the world in this Marxist globalist global revolution. Well, the devil went down to Georgia over the weekend, and we're going to talk and hear from people directly as to what happened there, because you need to know about it. Georgia is critical. There's something about Georgia. It's the epicenter of all of this. It's where the Georgia Guidestones were, you know, bring back the population to a half a billion from 8 billion or whatever it is. So we're going to dig into that. It's not good. If we have time, we'll talk to our guys in Europe. Not sure we're going to have time, though. We're going to have some guests maybe popping in during the show, but we'll see if we can get to all of this. Today is June 9th. I'm your host, L Todd Wood. Here's your mission brief. Mexico declares war on the U.S. We're going to talk about Sheinbaum and her statements. Ukraine doesn't want its dead back because it doesn't want to pay the families, and other Ukrainian issues. By the way, tomorrow at 11, we're going to have Pete Blaber on for the Ukraine sit rep for the week. Stay tuned for that tomorrow. Assassination attempt in Colombia. Again, they're killing conservative leaders that go against the globalist movement, just like they killed those that went against the vax in Haiti and elsewhere. Globalists are radio silent. That's a little scary. You don't hear much, but the war is coming. Trump versus Musk, and guess who's back? Ron DeSantis, good old Ron. So we're going to talk about all that, a lot to go through today. Thanks for joining us on the SCIF. We'll be right back after this break.
Since we launched ALP, we've had 4 flavors, but we are proud to announce ALP has a brand new flavor, one of several we'll be rolling out over the next year or so, and it is Sweet Nectar. I have personally tested this product 2 at a time, and it's excellent. Sweet Nectar, the new flavor out from ALP, really, really good. Go to alppouch.com. You can order it in bulk by the pallet if you want. I have strongly recommended Sweet Nectar. And stay tuned for morning flavors.
Your government doesn't care about you. That's why you need a medical emergency kit. It contains life-saving medications like ivermectin, Z-Pak, and antibiotics. Stock them before they block them.
True life ALP story. I got a call from a friend of mine yesterday, honestly, true story, who said his girlfriend had just broken up with him over ALP. He wouldn't stop. And I thought to myself, that's kind of sad. And he said, no, it's not sad. Imagine if I'd married her. Now I know I was saved. Then the next day, this same friend is driving at twice the speed limit through a major American city, pulled over by a cop in a speed trap. Cop takes his license registration, goes back to the patrol car, runs him, comes back, looks in the window, and sees a tin of ALP on the dashboard. Pauses, stunned, says to my friend, "You use ALP?" "Yeah, I do," says my friend. "So do I," says the cop. "We all do." He looks at my friend thoughtfully and goes, "Drive safely, sir," and hands back his license and registration. No ticket. So in 2 days, he's saved from a tragic marriage to a girl who doesn't like ALP and a speeding ticket. All true. It's more than a nicotine marriage.
Welcome back to the SCIF. I want to give a shout out to ALP, our really good sponsor. We're getting a lot of good success on this. If you're a Zen user, ditch the woke Zen and get the ALP and go to alppouch.com/CDM. That's where you buy it. Thank you for doing that and supporting CDM. Don't forget the //CDM, alppouch.com/CDM. I also want to give a shout out to Whatfinger, which is our news aggregator partner. They post a lot of our content. If you're looking for just a good aggregation site that doesn't bring a lot of stuff that you don't want, or maybe that you like the way they curate all this stuff, they do a really good job of that. I know they spend a lot of time. They have editors that go 24/7, so check out Whatfinger. And it's a good partner of CDM. So add them to your daily scan along with us, cdm.press as well. I'm going to bring in Dan O'Shea now. He's a good friend of the show and been on many times. But Dan, thanks for coming on short notice, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Good morning, Todd.
So I led the show off that we're at war in LA. We have invaders in country. We have millions of people who are fighting the police, and now DOD is calling in active duty troops along with National Guard in California. But you've had experience fighting an insurgency, and that's what we have essentially is an insurgency inside the U.S.
100%.
So an insurrection.
Absolutely.
So how do we deal with this, man?
Well, I mean, critical, I was in San Diego and the teams when the LA riots went down, and it was crazy. I mean, LA was spinning out of control. A lifelong friend, a girlfriend that I'd been very close to for years. She was at UCLA on the complete opposite end. She was that classic, California liberal, and kind of probably one of the two areas we always disagreed on topics. And she called me in the middle of it and said, "My God, Danny, why aren't the Navy SEALs up here in LA? Like you guys need to be here." So it's like that classic wake up call for a liberal who gets mugged and all of a sudden realizes, well, maybe I need to be pro police. Maybe I need to carry a concealed weapon and get a concealed carry permit. So we're back at that. And the fact that, the Marines are being called up, National Guard units have been involved in this, but because National Guard units, as you know, they can be called up at the request of the governor. And in this case, it's not the California governor who's calling up them. It's the president and now Marines. So, you know, that is just going to deal with the short term. Obviously, these riots, and the biggest challenge is, you know, I've seen coverage. I was watching late last night, and Fox was covering it. No one else was really covering it. But you've got pallets of bricks being deposited in key areas, which is just a tell. You know, that's being funded, that's being paid. You know, these and as we know that these protesters, they're all professional protesters. Most are not from LA. They're going to be boxed in, shipped in, bussed in, whatever. And the key thing to counter this insurgency, not only is this quell the current uprising, but get the intelligence. But they need to go after them. I mean, Antifa. The way to take down Antifa is how you take down the mob. The Department of Justice has to start going after, you know, the same administration that put Trinidad and Tobago and MS-13 and designated terrorist organizations. They need to start going into infiltrating Antifa, infiltrating where the money's coming from. Follow the money. That is always the tell. We know there's definite George Soros connections, but they need to address this like the insurgency was addressed in Iraq. And it was a long fight. I was there for most of it. I was there for the invasion. I was there 04, 05, 06, back in 07, and back in 2010. And it took basically a decade almost, and including, but it was a combination of taking out key leadership, but ultimately it was really going after the financing. And you can start pulling the string on this, and you know, we're at a, you know, this is the Antifa is the proxy army of leftists in this country. Hardcore, you know, communists, progressives, the hardcore progressives, communists and socialists, and that's what this is. They are the proxy army of, and there's got to be some, you know, Governor Newsom and Mayor, you know, this Karen Bass woman. They're not the ones calling for the National Guard. It's our president, and it really just shows how divided we are as a country. That it is really being splintered along, you know, left and right lines. And I wouldn't even call it Democrat Republican anymore. It is left and right
freedom
lines.
or control. I wouldn't even say we're that divided. I think the leadership been in place or put into these positions were divided from them. But I don't think most of California wants this. But you're right. Follow the thread. I mean,
no,
well, go
they
ahead.
do not. I'm Todd. I have family still out there. 3 of my siblings still live in California. Californians are fed up with this. They are literally fed up with what has been happening. The once golden state. I grew up in California, spent the majority of my early life, up until age 18 when I went off to join the Navy. It was an amazing place. And I went back in all the decade from 1990 to 2001. I was back in San Diego, and it was America's finest city. San Diego was incredible. I absolutely loved it. It was still pretty conservative. We also had the Orange County, but you had the LA and San Francisco, but most of California was still very livable. There weren't tent cities, but every time I go back to California, it is just devastating because it's not just LA that's the downtown cesspool, or San Francisco, which is basically the poop capital of America. I mean, you saw the amount of cleanup that has to do every week in just the Bay Area. And Oakland, some of these cities are completely lost, Oakland being one of them. They have been destroyed by this progressive ideology. But you know what? Sadly, still the majority of California votes this in. Governor Newsom was recalled. They had a chance to get rid of him. And it was either complete election fraud or voter fraud that kept him in power. But, sadly, the Californians have voted for this. But the average Californian is fed up. They are tired of this. And there's a reason why Trump won, because, look at what the Democratic Party is defending. They're defending criminals. But they're gonna fuck around and find out, because this Department of Justice is not messing around.
Well, I hope so. We've seen some movement, but you're right. Follow the thread. All you got to do is, somebody brought those trucks of bricks in, right? The surveillance cameras caught them. They can get the license plates. They can find who paid for the truck. They can trace that money back. That shouldn't be hard. You can get into the leadership. And why is this still happening, I guess, is the point. Didn't they foresee this? I guess the local governments don't really care. So what are the feds going to do? But and you're right. The elections are the big issue, I think, or one of the big issues. And I just saw that San Diego just removed a lot of like 100,000 voters from their lists, and that may be more competitive. We'll see. But What do you think about the intel effort? We've had the Biden administration in there. So how long does it take to build a good intel effort? Human source capability.
Well, that doesn't happen overnight. You have to go undercover. They're going to have to infiltrate, get people. It's crazy. 25 odd years ago, when I left the teams, I transitioned into the adventure racing world, and I'd always go to SHOT Show in Vegas. SHOT Show in Salt Lake City. Not SHOT Show. SHOT Show's in Vegas. I'm sorry, the Outdoor Retailer Show. Excuse me. So that's when you had every outfitter on the planet, from North Face and Patagonia and all the big outdoor, anyone who produced anything to go out in the woods, which are a lot of eco-friendly type folks, including the eco-friendly terrorist groups that were out there that were kind of growing in the 90s. And I remember how they were embraced. And, you'd go out there for the week, you'd meet people, and you get your sponsors, and you'd find out companies that were supporting you to go do an adventure race in Ecuador or China or wherever, and fund your team with clothing and equipment. They would be funding some of these terrorists. And I'm not kidding you. I sat at a party, one of the after parties, and this young girl, she was a, outdoor chick, your classic granola girl. And she had been profiled in Rolling Stone, and she was one of these eco-terrorists. I can't remember the group she was with, but Rolling Stones wrote this big article on her, and she was just like kind of glowing in the shine of the exposure. Yeah. But they were really, I didn't tell her my background, obviously, because she would have probably not been talking to a Navy SEAL, for God's sakes, especially at a party, but over some beers. But I just listened to her and let her just go on about their organization and how they were doing all these things, and they were very dedicated, and I have respect for things. And I'm an eco guy too. I love being in the outdoors. I mean, I lived my life, especially as a SEAL. I mean, hell, I know what it's like to sleep on the ground more times than out in the woods. But that has, there's ways to get into those organizations, and that's what needs to be done. But they need to follow the money. They need to infiltrate this, and they need to look at Antifa like we looked at the insurgency. Just for me, my experience was chasing kidnapping rings, and it comes down to intelligence. And then you have to systematically, because the kidnapping rings were funding the insurgency. And that was, they were raising $1 million ransoms that were being spent on, attacking us. And here's just one caveat about how this is so challenging. They're spending a lot of money on Antifa, but it will pale by comparison. Rolling out 500 for Marines from Pendleton. I mean, those are going to be orders. That is going to cost millions of dollars just to get 500 Marines up to LA for the next 2 weeks, 2 months, whatever it's going to be. When we track the insurgency, and specifically the kidnapping rings, the organization we worked with, Defense Intelligence Agency, they had this really whip smart analyst. And after a year of the height of the insurgency in 2005, they had calculated what did it cost for the insurgency to attack the U.S. mission in Iraq when we were spending $8 to $10 billion a month. And they calculated, I want to say it was 2005, which was the height of the insurgency. They added up every attack led by the insurgents, and they did how many insurgents were they? So they had calculated five, if there are 5 insurgents, there were 5 AK-47s, how many RPGs were estimated fired, and so on and so forth. So they did a cost analysis of each attack of what it would cost for the insurgency on the open market to go buy the AKs, the RPGs, the weapons, the rounds, build a suicide bomber, build a vehicle, convert it into a suicide vest. So if it was an Opel on the market, that might cost $2,000 for the vehicle, and then $5,000 that had to go pay out to the family, and then another 1,000 of munitions and T-72 tank rounds or artillery rounds to pack up the vehicle. But they would do a cost analysis, what it cost for every attack, and they added up every attack over a year and put a sum total for all of 2005. And when we were spending 120 to 150 billion annually, the total cost, Todd, take a stab at how much the insurgency spent fighting the U.S. war machine and the coalition in the height of the insurgency. Take a wild guess.
A year or a month or what?
1 year, just 1 year.
30 million. My
God, see, you nailed it. It was 21 million. And I had general officers when I briefed him. General Ricardo Sanchez, the 3-star, he was still 5th Corps commander, and I out-briefed him in Iraq, in Germany, when I flew from Iraq to go brief 5th Corps because they were heading back into Iraq, and he was about to hang up his spurs and do his turnover and retire. And I briefed him and I asked him that very question. I said, sir, do you have any idea how much money the insurgency has spent in the last year fighting us? And all the generals I briefed, everyone had outrageous numbers. 100 million, 80 million, 200 million, a bill. No, sir, $21 million. And it was an eye opener. So that's the other challenge is that.
So they can easily fund that with hostage operations.
Oh, 100%. No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And they were doing that. They were funding. They absolutely. And that's ultimately the impetus for JSOC and your former brethren and the boys you and I both know. That's when they finally, after 18 months of me raising the hand about, hey, we need to address these kidnapping rings. Initially, they didn't care because the focus wasn't on, because the kidnappings were local Iraqis. The victims were local Iraqis. They were third country nationals, or even the French. When the French were grabbed, there was a collective shrug within the embassy. Yeah, the French don't have troops in the coalition. We don't care about French journalists being kidnapped. Or, I mean, literally, I sat in these high-level meetings, and I'm the only guy in the room as an operator with a bunch of diplomats and intel weenies going, you don't understand. It's like that broken glass theory. If you let one broken glass in the neighborhood, next week there'll be 3 broken glass, and you need to address it. And it was finally when they did the numbers and realized how much money, and we estimate that there was 100 million raised in 05 on kidnappings alone. We estimate a conservative number that ransom payments totaled over $100 million, and that alone was funding the insurgency and the 401k plan for these insurgents and terrorist groups and others. Because and again, that's how they have to approach this. They need to look at Antifa. They need to look at, because they're involved in criminality. They are a homegrown terrorist organization, and you can listen to the like of Sarah McAdams and Scott Task Force Pineapple, Scott Mann. I've seen him on podcasts about that. They've both been stating 1,000+ insurgents are running around this country plotting the next 9/11. And the example would be, can you imagine an October 7th style attack? All right. So right now they're tossing rocks. But what about, and I'm not making a connection directly between Antifa and quote ISIS. That's not what I'm saying here, but they're going to use the same tactics. Imagine we're so used to preparing for one active shooter. That's typically what it is. One man with a gun starts shooting up a school or a movie theater or an event. But imagine 30, 40 folks. Imagine it being 5 to 6, 7 cities simultaneously across this country. Or imagine a bunch of schools, an elementary school in California, a junior high in the Midwest, a liberal arts college in the Northeast, and a big name school like University of Alabama.
Or a daycare.
Say again?
Or a daycare.
Children, yes. But I'm making the argument. Think of a Beslan, which was when a school was taken over by Chechen rebels, and they kept the world's attention for over a week, kept a number of children hostage inside the school auditorium with literally IEDs hanging from the basketball hoops inside the gymnasium. And then when the Russian Spetsnaz assaulted, I mean, multitude of children were killed. And think of that impact of across the country, and I'm not the only one saying it. A lot of very smart people who have our background and our background of service to the country and have access to intelligence that I'm not even tracking are saying, what we're seeing in LA is just a precursor. And the goal for Antifa is if they can shut down ICE, getting rid of, and right now ICE, as we know, they're going after criminals. They're rolling up not only illegal immigrants, but folks who have arrest records, some for serious crimes, murder, rape, and the rest. And look at how much the Antifa and the progressives are defending them. And you've got sitting Democratic senators flying down to El Sal to have a conversation with the quote Maryland Father of the Year. That's the insanity, because that's why this does go back to the Democratic Party, because they have cast their lot. The Democratic Party has cast their lot with the progressives. And that Democratic Party has been, that's why so many people have abandoned rational Democrats like John F. Kennedy, Bobby Kennedy Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, and others have left the party, because that is what the left is now represented. And it's unfortunately, it's got a big D behind it, and not, and that's the reality.
Well, let me ask you this. It's unlimited money. That's the problem we have. And these people are being funded in unlimited amounts with all this. I mean, you're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars over the last several years. There has to be some kind of element within the government involved in this, or at least enabling it, or what are your thoughts on that?
Todd, who got a presidential Medal of Freedom? George Soros by Joe Biden. I mean, he was actually in the room doing it because there's video. It wasn't the, the hand, his signature stamp that was used by his aides to let like 4,000, criminals, be pardoned, right, in the last 10 couple hours. I mean, but George Soros was given a Medal of Freedom, the highest award. It's like getting a Medal of Honor as a private citizen. So that tells you everything. That tells you everything. It is directly connected to where the Democratic Party has been overrun by the progressives. I'm not saying every Democrat, but certainly when the president is giving the man that is most responsible for funding this destruction, and the DAs across the country that have literally said, well, think about that. Reason California has been so destroyed. You can walk into a CVS or a Target and take $900 worth of stuff in a grocery cart and walk out of the store, and they can't do anything to you. Think about that. Those are the DAs that were put in place by Soros, and he's also funding these organizations. So it is a direct connection. And it, again, there's synergy between what is the Democratic Party today and what is these radical, leftists. And again, well, go back to the insurrection on January 6th, quote unquote. And I wished to this day that had never happened, because prior to January 6th, there had never been a mass scale conservative movement that ever did something so like egregious, because that was not when they were taking over the Capitol. I'm watching that just from the news going, oh my God, you guys you've just now validated everything the left has said about us, that the left has been doing since BLM and the riots with George Floyd and the rest. And that really took the win. And the Democrats took that January 6th all the way to the bank as long as they could, even if they had to manufacture a majority of the charges against a lot of those folks that were at the Capitol who spent 2 years, 3 years in prison without any due process. And there were Democrats weren't screaming about due process for American citizens who were exercising their First Amendment rights. And yet now they're screaming bloody process about due process for illegal immigrants. It's bizarre world, but that's
a lot of that was manufactured on J6. Yeah, there was some people who took it too far, but I think most of it was manufactured. Let me ask you this: Beslan still haunts the Russians. I mean, to this day, it still is a noose around a leader's neck to not let that happen again in Russia. Do you think DOJ is up to the task of doing everything you're talking about right now, or not?
I think I know Pam Bondi. I'm from Tampa. Pam was the spokeswoman for the U.S. attorney here. I've known her for 25 years. I have a lot of respect for Pam Bondi, and she's got her hands full. Obviously, she's not making probably every right decision, but they're inundated. Think about how busy DOJ is and the FBI trying to clean out the rot from the last two administrations, the last two, FBI directors, Wray and the idiot with the 8647 Comey. So they've got their hands full. And frankly, the problem is the DOJ, there's still enemy within the room. There's an insurgency within DOJ. They haven't rooted out and fired everyone at DOJ. They're replacing all the AUSAs around the country. And they just nominated down here in Tampa, Greg Kehoe, who is remarkable. In fact, I knew Greg in Iraq because he was the guy, the attorney. He's a war crimes Hague guy that's worked at the Hague for years, going after war criminals. And he was hired by George W. Bush personally, a personal phone call. And he's now the U.S. attorney here in the Middle District. He's phenomenal. He's one of the best lawyers on the planet. And he's the kind of guy we need. And but we don't have enough of the Greg Kehoes right now. And it's an uphill battle. I would just say that every American out there, every veteran, everyone with a concealed carry, be prepared, because everyone is predicting another 9/11 style. And again, ISIS, whoever, they could use having the Marines and now every police station, certainly in LA, being overwhelmed and inundated by these, quote, homegrown domestic terrorists. Well, wouldn't that be the perfect time to launch another real attack that is on a much larger scale, where they're not throwing rocks at police or folks, but they're armed, and they're armed with guns, and they're armed with potentially suicide vests.
Do you think, last question, do you think we'll see hostages in the U.S.?
again, my prediction is what I just laid out, that they will go over, they will simultaneously walk into 4 or 5 schools across all the time zones, from an elementary school to up to a university level. Can you imagine? It'll only take 3 to 4 gunmen across the country, synchronized, and do that. Yes, I absolutely do. Because listen, within hours of October 7th, 1,251 Israelis, men, women, children, infants, grandparents, who had been slaughtered in their homes, and another, 251 kidnapped, taken hostage. They kidnapped a 9-year-old infant and 96-year-old grandparents, and held them, and they're still holding hostages. Yet the world has not turned against Israel. They were turning against Israel immediately, and it's said to the world that they can literally get away with this. And now on college campuses across some of the, quote, elite college campuses from Colombia to Harvard and the rest, you've got whole-scale protesters running around with Hamas flags. I mean, and these are now brainwashed, quote, the best in the nation, Ivy League grads, which used to have you used to have respect for someone who said, oh, I went to an Ivy, I went to Harvard, Yale. I mean, that's the state. That's the reality we're living in now. So they've got a lot in their hand, and I don't think DOJ alone is going to be able to tackle this, much less, one, which is why Trump has taken the extreme measure to call out the Marines. And we all know the Marines will have a fight. And I think the Marines will be, they will be welcomed in LA, not only by the fellow men and women in uniform, law enforcement, men and women in blue. They will be welcomed by most Los Angeles, San Helenos who want peace and order brought back to the City of Angels.
Dan, thanks so much, man. We'll have you back. Appreciate the time, short notice. Take care. Perfect guest. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.
This is a special report.
Knowing how to invest your money is harder than ever before. Dealing with stock market volatility, record debt, and terrorist attacks requires new thinking. At U.S. Asset Management, we can help you see the world more clearly so that you can move beyond the chaos and invest with confidence. Call us, visit us online, or drop by our office. U.S. Asset Management, helping you make better decisions with your money.
Pandemic, we can never be caught unprepared again. And so many Americans, when COVID hit, they had nothing in the house. Stores were shut down, and doctors' offices were shut down. And even if doctors prescribed drugs, hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, pharmacists wouldn't fill the prescriptions. That was a nightmare.
Now the situation is much worse. We have these horrible supply chain problems. In our emergency medical kit at the Wellness Company, we have 8 prescription drugs that are all potentially life-saving.
Most people who died with COVID, they died in the hospital because they didn't receive early treatment.
Every American family should have one of these.
I can tell you the Wellness Company kit is the answer.
So we are in the factory in Kentucky. This is Alp World HQ, and we are at the end of the packing line. So I'm going to show you how it works. We have the card, throw it in there. There's a packing slip, and then you have the Alp. And 4, but that seems honestly like a lot. 3 now, but it's good. These pack a punch that, for a normal nicotine brand, it'd be like 8. We think 3 is fine. Next one. Again, 4. Let's go 3 in just to keep it fair. Okay? There you go. So you can see you can get fast at this. And really it's just a matter of repetition. This is kind of the assembly line that Henry Ford devised so long ago.
Tucker stealing all the applicants.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Thanks for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed Dan O'Shea. I'd like to give a shout out to our sponsors. We've talked about outpouch.com/CDM, but go to the wellness company, twc.health/CDM. And if you use promo code CDM, you get 10% off. This is the travel kit, emergency kit. The kits are fantastic. They have everything you need for certain situations. This is the contagion kit that has a nebulizer and the steroids in it. Just everything you need for the next pandemic or any kind of emergency health-wise, and antibiotics, everything. And what you need to do is go to twc.health/CDM and spend some time on the website. Just play around, look at the memberships, look at the ways you can get free drugs and free supplements, look at the doctor's visits online, look at the emergency medical kits, look at the other supplements like the Ultimate Spike Detox for those who have been vaccinated. You know, all this information is coming out, massive excess deaths due to the vaccinations. This can help get rid of the spike protein in your blood, which does a really bad number to your blood system and your immune system over time. So if you have somebody who's been vaccinated, take a look at the Ultimate Spike Detox on twc.health/CDM. Use promo code CDM. You get 10% off. I want to walk through a few stories. We're going to have Ed Vidal jump on at the top of the hour, I think. We'll see, to talk about the Hispanic angle on all this going on in LA. And then we're going to talk to some people in Georgia on the massive corruption, which you need to know about because it's probably happening in your state too, inside the GOP. But we'll talk about that in a second. Death to America, Mexico at war with the United States. The president of Mexico essentially issued a threat to the United States. And I'll bring, if you scroll down this article on CDM, she is there, Sheinbaum, talking about if necessary, we'll mobilize. We don't want taxes on remittances from our fellow countrymen. So she's saying, we don't want you to tax the money we're taking from you. So we're going to mobilize. That's a direct threat. That's an act of war against the United States. And we're going to stay on this story because it's not going away. We're going to have a lot of experts this week and talk about what's happening and how you can protect yourself. That's most important. How can you be more resilient? How can you help your family? How can you make sure that you're prepared for whatever is coming? We've been talking about this for a long time, but guess what, folks? It's here, unfortunately. I want to talk about Ukraine. So there are thousands of bodies lying on the battlefield that the Ukrainians, hold on, let me bring up this right story. There it is. So there was a deal between the Russians that were going to be, and I think it actually went through this morning on some of the seriously injured. I have to check the report since we started the show, but thousands of dead bodies on the Russian side of Ukrainian soldiers that Ukraine is reportedly not taking. And this came out over the weekend. And the reason they're not taking the bodies on the Ukrainian side is so they don't have to list these people as dead and therefore have to pay their families the few $100,000 that the families get for a dead soldier. I mean, this is pretty damn bad. And there is reports that we've reported on that there are wholesale rejection of orders, refusal to follow orders by whole Ukrainian units in Donbass because of this, because it shows you don't care. You don't care about us. You don't care about our families. We're just meat to you. And unfortunately, that's the propaganda the Russians have been using, and this just feeds right into it. So we're also seeing Russia take territory more and more and more, all the way up to the line of the Dnipro territory from the northern Donbass area. They're moving further into Ukraine as they push for a settlement in their favor. I don't know where this is going to go, but it looks like Trump is just kind of backing away slowly from the whole conflict and is going to let them fight it out. We'll see. But we're going to have Pete Blaber on tomorrow at 11 o'clock and talk about this more. But I just wanted to make you aware that this is a story with they're not collecting the bodies. And you can go on to sarism.com, our Eastern European site, and see all this, multiple stories there about this. But it's a big deal because it really is impacting the morale of the Ukrainian troops. Now, I want to talk about another story. There's a great article up on CDM. Globalists go radio silent as NATO flirts with World War III. Read through this. It's from a popular blog. I forget the name of it, but we reprinted it. But essentially, all the noise coming from the globalists has quieted down. And that's concerning to a lot of people, a lot of analysts, because they may be getting ready for the next phase of this. They've lost essentially what the last 4 years represented to Biden, 5 years. They've lost this conflict. They've lost the information war. They're losing slowly as Trump takes over and increases the pressure. You're seeing it in Europe with certain capitals starting to feel pressure from populists, like what just happened in Poland. And so the fear is that the globalists are moving towards a global war, because that's the great reset they really want. Reduce the population, allow fear to allow them to control even more, implement the CDBCs and all the electronic control surveillance systems with that fear. So this is really a good article. Go to cdm.press, globalists go radio silent, for our audio audience, and read through it, and it gives you a good perspective of what's been going on and what may be happening in the future. We talked about the president being shot in Colombia. This is on cdm.press as well. I reached out to a good Colombian friend this morning, and he just texted me back. He said, in the context of violence that Colombia has experienced for many decades, this is not a very big event. The victim is a member of the Colombian ruling class, so the editorials are showing that the upper class is outraged. But I do not think it is a significant event for the general public. That's an interesting insight. And again, what we're known for is reaching out to people on the ground in these countries and getting their opinion as to what's happening versus just, reading Telegram or whatever and putting it out. So you can read about this story. This guy was a presidential candidate. He's been shot 3 times, a couple of them in the head. So I don't think, even if he does survive, he's not going to be a viable candidate. So we're going to watch what happens in Colombia, because you had the shooting of the president in Slovakia. You had Abe being killed. You had Trump being attempted twice to be killed. And so they're trying to take out these leaders that oppose them, just like they did during the vaccine. Any of the leaders that didn't want the vax mysteriously ended up murdered. This is going to continue until we stop it. Another story on Ukraine, on Tsarism, is we had gone into and listed a lot of the money launderers, including the ambassador to the United States, and her name is Oksana. I'm blanking on her name here. I'd have to bring it up again, but she is in this main picture to the right, holding the folder. But she is a known money launderer in Ukraine. I'll bring this article up. And she was taking pictures with Pelosi before. Oksana Makarova, that's her name. So she's the ambassador of Ukraine to the U.S., and she's a massive money launderer. We've reported on, we've laid out all the evidence from sources on the ground. Andrei Yermak, we've talked about him as well. He's the big guy in the center. And these people are meeting with Witkoff, meeting with the U.S. representatives, meeting with Rubio. Why is that? Why are we meeting with criminals from the Ukrainian delegation in the United States? A big question, and be good to know the answer to. Maybe they know about these people, but maybe they don't, because a lot of Trump and others are not told a lot of this stuff. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. Appreciate you joining the SCIF today. A lot more to go through. We're going to talk about Georgia and other things. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Watching my friends gain more and more weight, and then eventually, I got to tell you, this is a little dark, but bad diet literally killed my whole crew.
Wow.
Diabetes, a stroke, all kinds of stuff. It's like, you had a stroke? You're not even 50 years old. You guys got to quit eating this stuff. Your body knows what's what. You're not conscious of this. But that's why people will go to the refrigerator and they'll grab this and that and the other and put together this outrageously elaborate combination of foods. Your body's trying to reach balance. Unbeknownst to us, our bodies are always trying to reach homeostasis. You can't eat all of this stuff and expect to live a long time. And one thing led to another, and I went, forget this. We're going to make our own product. So we partnered with one of the world's top 3 biochemists where nutrition-specific study is concerned. I said, all I want is the best nutritional and immune support product in the world. So we mix it in yogurt. It's a powder. I got a bag of it here. I keep one on the console all the time, just so I can show people.
Yeah.
And it's a powder. Now, this is not candy. This is hardcore nutrition. And sugar is an enemy. And most people do not know that the reason these bellies are showing up on people all over the place, your body makes fat to store the toxins it can't get rid of. So it just puts them over here. But I can tell you this, you take this for 30 days and then lay off of it for 2 or 3 days, and you'll go, good grief, give me some more. Skin, nails, hair growing back. Cut yourself and it heals in half the time.
I'm David Cross, and you may know me from my election integrity work, but I also own U.S. Asset Management, an investment advisory practice. I've been an advisor for nearly 30 years, and one of the questions I get asked most frequently is, do I have enough money relative to other people my age? And while that's an interesting question, it's also the wrong question. The right question is do you have enough money to sustain your lifestyle for the rest of your life? This is a question you should know the answer to. This is what we do. Check us out at us-am.com and look for our big proud American Eagle logo.
We're slogging over Africa. Foot, slogging over Africa. Boot, moving up and down again. There's no discharge in the war. 7, 6, 11.
Welcome back to the SCIF. Let me get rid of that. Want to highlight Nucleo Boost. Developed it with John B. Wells. Fantastic if you're looking for just everything your body needs at the cellular level to stay in the fight, to resist disease, and to be the most healthy you can be and give your body what it needs at the microcellular level for nutrition. And it has the bio-allo to actually get it into the cell, kind of like the zinc and the hydrochloroquine, the same concept. One's the bullet, one gets it into the cell. That's what this does. Go check out cdmnutrition.com and look at the subscription is cheaper, the monthly subscription. So we use it. It gives us stamina. It gives me stamina. We go 24/7 here, and the staff does. And I've got them all on it, and they all love it. So check it out. Nucleo Boost at cdmnutrition.com. Another story that I didn't pull up on the screen, but the Federal Reserve, Trump is going out saying he's going to replace the head of the Fed now. He's actually put out a name over the weekend. Marsh, I think it was. One of the Fed governors. Interest rates and the debt are a huge problem. I wrote a book about this, Currency. If you want to understand why the debt is such a big problem, go to this book and check it out. I think I don't have the graphic anymore, but go to Currency by L Todd Wood. You can find it anywhere. It just was re-released by historyofbooks.com. I don't have the graph, but I have the real book. So people love it. It's just a great gift for somebody who loves to read. It's a page-turning thriller, a financial historical thriller, historical fiction. We call it faction. But the rest of the series will be released soon by History of Books, the follow-on novels. But I have fantastic reviews on this. I'll tell you a story. I did a book signing. Part of this book was written in Nevis, the Caribbean island. And I did a book signing there on one of the old sugar mills, had a bunch of people show up. And then a year later, I get a call from the British Film Academy saying I was at this plantation, this old colonial plantation on the side of the volcano in Nevis, in the library, and I saw your book. There was a copy left there. And he said, I want to make a series on this. That's still in negotiation, but there it is. Check it out. It's a great book. You'll learn a lot. So, it's perfect for that person who has everything. Summer readings coming up. Christmas is coming up. Father's Day, all of it. Check it out. You can get it anywhere books are sold. If they don't have it in the store, then they can order it and have it to you quickly. So one more story about Florida. And I just want to bring this up on the MiamiIndependent.com, which is our Florida paper, Miami Independent, Trump and Musk and Ron DeSantis. It looks like good old Ron is trying to take advantage of the fight between Musk and Trump. And if you go to the Miami Independent, you'll see that. That's the article. It may not be for Ron, but for his wife, Casey, who they want to put in the governorship. This is the Matrix Bush operation working here. It's not just Ron DeSantis. He's the figurehead. They tried to get him in, but it didn't work. So they're trying for Ron's wife, Casey, to put her in power in Florida and keep this governorship away from the MAGA crowd, just like they're doing everywhere. And by the way, the whole GOP across the nation, a lot of it has this issue where it's been infiltrated by those who don't have our best interest at heart. And they are working not for MAGA, not for the American people, not for the representatives of their state, like the citizens of the great state of Georgia. They're working for somebody else, just like Zelensky, Macron, Biden, Obama. We're all working for some other agenda. Starts with an S. But check this out, miamiindependent.com. Great article, great insight into what's happening in Florida. So we may have Ed Vidal on here in a second to talk about what's going on with the Hispanic community. If he doesn't show up, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to start playing what happened in Georgia. I'm going to play a good part of our Georgia show yesterday because I want you to see the emotion on people's faces when they had to deal with this stuff that was happening, where they had the Georgia GOP convention and complete tyranny. I experienced this in the Miami-Dade GOP on the Republican Executive Committee over the last couple of years, not allowing people to speak, controlling the mics, controlling the convention, controlling everything, calling the police if people didn't do what they wanted, just in-your-face tyranny in the Georgia GOP. And the problem is you've got certain parts of Conservative Inc. who are supporting this, and it makes you wonder why. But that's a whole nother story. President Trump did endorse Josh McCoon, but he endorsed him for the George Republican Party and misspelled it, we think, on purpose, because we think Trump knows what's going on in Georgia. But Georgia is the epicenter. You need to know about it. And I'm going to start playing this. If Ed Vidal comes in, then I will come back to Ed, and we'll stop this and then continue playing. This is from our Georgia show yesterday. Hope you enjoy it. We'll be standing by for Ed Vidal if he jumps in, but and I'll drop this and then come back to Ed, and then we'll continue the Georgia. But here we go. But here is my conversation with Julie Allen. I hope you enjoy it. We're honored to have Julie Allen with us today. She was at the convention, and she put out a really interesting thread that was very informative, and I wanted to get her on to talk about it. Julie, welcome. Thanks for coming on today while you're traveling.
Thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
So what the heck happened in Dalton, Georgia yesterday?
You know, a convention run by Robert's Rules of Order, the expectation for a delegation is that the will of the majority prevails with respect for all delegates present, including the minority.
Mm-hmm.
If you know, I will share, I've been doxxed previously. You know, my Twitter account is at What Matters in Georgia. So at What Matters in G, you can read the full thread there. And, you know, the number of views are in the thousands and the number of comments, you know, are extensive. That didn't happen. You know, there's a process where you expect, you know, to be able to vote on a convention chair. That didn't happen. It was appointed without a vote. Similarly, at the beginning of the convention, establishing what the rules are and voting on the rules. You know, the rules were presented with an immediate call for the question without any opportunity for discussion. Right there, the question as to whether, you know, that's out of order, you know, all of those, there were no little entertainment of opportunity for the body to express its will, you know, and as I cover, you know, on my Twitter thread, as people observed, there were very few opportunities for delegates to access the mics. You know, pictures and videos show a clear effort on behalf to block access of the delegates to.
So we're going to bring Ed Vidal in. He just jumped on. So we'll continue this Georgia conversation after we speak with Ed.
Hello.
Hey, Ed. How you doing, man? Thanks for jumping on short notice. But you know, all this stuff blew up over the weekend, so we're just kind of producing on the fly here. But tell me what your thoughts are. You're a Cuban immigrant. You're a Hispanic, successful guy in Miami. What do you think? Give me some insight on what the community thinks about I know it's different inside the Hispanic community, Mexicans, Venezuelans, Cubans, but what are your thoughts on what's happening?
Well, I think the Cubans, especially, and really most of the people in South Florida, are all people who had businesses or professions or careers in Latin America, and like my parents and mostly all the other people here. And I live in Doral, which is full of Venezuelans, and they lost those businesses to communism, to socialism. And so these are all, they came here to America and they rebuilt. And if you go to California, the further west you go, and especially after the amnesty of 1986, with Ronald Reagan made a mistake, he granted amnesty, and then there was no enforcement after he was gone. The people there are different. They are people who couldn't make it in Mexico and Central America. They are landless peasants. They are not capitalists. They were not petit bourgeois. And so it's a different mindset completely. And so that's the start of the difference. And when I and other people here in South Florida look at those mostly Mexican, many of them illegal immigrants or informal immigrants, we say those are the people that we came here to get away from. Those are the people that are parents, lawless people who have not amounted to anything. They don't own a business or a trade or a profession. And so they come up for the free stuff. They come up for the agricultural labor that is totally, you got to realize Mexico, the agriculture has been decimated because it's been collectivized in most of central and southern Mexico. In the 1920s, they had agrarian reform. So they have all these collectives, very similar to the Russian collectives. Hey, collectives don't work that well in the kibbutzes in Israel. You need private ownership of land. So in Mexico, you have government enforced collectives. And so the agriculture in Mexico is a real failure. So all these landless, untrained, semi-literate people have come up to California, other parts of the West. You see a lot of that in Texas is a little different because you don't have as much free stuff in Texas, but it's still a problem. But California, since 1986, has just been a magnet for illiterate, landless, unskilled people, and they come here. And in California, you're not asked to assimilate. These are not Americans. They're flying Mexican flags. They had Palestinian flags. I even saw a flag that I didn't recognize. I looked it up. It's from Burkina Faso, Upper Volta in North Africa. I mean, give me a break. These people are not Americans. And I keep saying being a United States citizen is a legal status, but it doesn't make you an American. An American is a cultural construct. You have to come here legally. You have to come here not to be a public charge. That used to be a requirement. You should come here with your family. That's a big help. And the people here protesting in California are not any of that. They're not Americans. They're just aliens who have been dropped into California in order to change the electorate. And that's what the Democrats have been trying to do for the last 4 years. And I thank God for Trump and his team that's trying to reverse that. But we need to get after this. And when you look at, Gavin Newsom, I don't have to tell you what a schmuck he is, but the mayor of Los Angeles, Karen Bass, is a communist. From the 70s and 80s, she was a member of this Venceremos brigade, and she's been to Cuba half a dozen times. She thinks that's the model. It's like Bernie Sanders. She was not picked to be the vice president candidate because of her background. She really is a communist. And the people of Los Angeles who voted for her got what they deserved when she didn't help them in their fires. So, we're dealing with real anti-American people. These are communists. They're not Americans, and they don't like America. Remember, progressives don't like America. America is a Judeo-Christian errand into the wilderness. It's an experiment, and these people don't want that. So I think it's essential what Trump is doing. I'm working with one of our contributors, Debbie Ferris. She has an account on Unheard or something like that, and she's going to contribute an article to the Miami Independent, really going over California and what's happened there. since the 86, and she shares the same. She was born in Venezuela. Her family's Chinese from Panama, Venezuela. She got her degree in Monterrey, Mexico, MBA at Rice in Houston. She was going to live, her family was going to live in California, but she wanted to be in Florida. So they moved to Florida, and she's followed California ever since. And it really shows you that we cannot let America get Californicated.
So true, Ed. What do you think? Well, I got you with this assassination attempt in Colombia. Any thoughts on that?
Colombia is a very violent society, and
Mhm.
this is it's just terrible. These are the communists are allied with the narco traffickers,
Mhm.
and this
Just
guy,
like in Mexico, right?
it's like Mexico, right? Well, right,
Mhm.
absolutely. And so we have to take them both on. And this, unfortunately, the president of Colombia is a total socialist, but he was elected because the conservatives in Colombia have not done their job of reaching out and acting like conservatives and making life better for most of the people. So I think there's going to be a backlash against the current president, and this guy would have been a good candidate. He's not dead.
Yeah.
He's got a bullet in his head that they don't want to take out. But
Really? I haven't heard
yeah,
the status. So but will he be lucid? I mean, will he be affected?
not clear.
Yeah.
But this tells you this is who we're dealing with. And they're up and down from California to Mexico to Colombia. Brazil, the president of Brazil was in Moscow helping the Russians celebrate Victory in Europe Day.
Yeah.
So, we have some real, Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, has some real work to do to reimpose the Monroe Doctrine.
Totally agree. Ed, anything else you want to get out, and where can people follow you?
Oh, well, I'm at the Miami Independent, miamiindependent.com, and we have several publications and columns. We've recently recruited a retired Cuban-American executive, Remedios Diaz Oliver, and she does a weekly column that's very insightful, really reflects the local Cuban-American community. So I highly recommend that everyone watch that and
Yeah,
read
let me
her
just bring
column.
that up. That here's the Miami Independent. Really, it's really grown as a paper. We have some fantastic writers like Ed. Ed contributes a lot, and he's brought in a lot of very fantastic talent, and really exposing a lot of what's going on in Florida and nationally. So thank you for that, Ed.
There's more to be done, and tonight I'm going to a dinner with probably the potentially the best candidate for Miami City Mayor with the elections in November. And my city of Miami is growing, but it's very corrupt. It's there's just a lot of informality. People go into politics to make a living or to boost their careers, not to serve the public. And we may have a breakthrough. This is why Latinos are here. We're not in our home countries because we don't know how to do politics. So there's a lot of work to be done here. But California doesn't have an answer. We have to make sure that America doesn't get Californicated.
Well, I think free media is the kryptonite to this whole communist movement. So thank you for all your help and support. Really appreciate it, Ed.
Okay, ready to go. Thank you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually. and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals, and we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Welcome back to the SCIF. You need to protect yourself and your assets. Go to CDMmetals.com. Check it out. Talk to Advisor Metals there. You can fill out the form. They will contact you. It's an easy conversation, but we have been preaching and screaming and yelling for 2 years now that you need to protect your portfolio because we're coming into unpleasant times. Now it's here. It's still not too late. You can still move some of your assets out of equities or fixed income, especially into something that is more historically a great store of value in very difficult times. That would be precious metals. These are the little tabs you can buy, but you can also, I think Advisor Metals really loves the rounds, the silver rounds, but precious metals, silver and gold, you need to protect your assets. I'm telling you right now, you need to make sure that you put your life's work into something that is going to hold its value. If you've got a 401k and you got 3, 4, 5, 50 grand in it, whatever, put some of it in precious metals. You can do that with Advisor Metals. Go to cdmmetals.com and protect your portfolio. I mean, if you're wrong, so what? You still have gold or silver, right? So if the what doesn't hit the fan, you still have gold and silver. So you can do it inside your IRA. You can do it with your cash assets. Just go to Advisor Metals, cdmmetals.com, cdmmetals.com for our audio audience. We pride ourselves here on giving you the big picture. And we've talked a lot about, there's a lot of the conservative Inc. talks about, well, this person's bad, that person's bad. We're all infiltrated, and you need to see the big picture of a global Marxist coup to take power. That is what's going on. So all of these state GOP organizations, a lot of them, especially in Georgia, Michigan, Arizona, Florida, they've all been infiltrated by people who are not good, and they don't have the citizens of those states at their best interest at heart. They are working for somebody else, just like up at the international level with Zelensky, Macron, etc. They're working for somebody else. So that's what's happening all around the world, and it's happening here. This is what the invasion's about. It's what the LA riots are about, is taking power from you and destroying our way of life and constitution and Western society and making you a slave. And not just you probably won't last to see the really bad stuff, but it's your children and grandchildren who are going to suffer. So get off the golf course and let's get going and get in the fight. Even if you're 80, there's a lot you can do. You can teach your young kids, for one, about reality and what freedom is, and tell them stories of your youth and teach them what it used to be like in the United States. That's essential. Free media is essential. Please support us with our no ad subscriptions. You can get those. You can go to any of our sites, top right corner, subscribe with no ads. Give us the $10 a month or $100 a year and get access to all of our sites. We're one of the best news services out there. I think the best. We need to get bigger. We need to get more. We put out probably 25 articles a day, but we need to get bigger. But what we put out is curated. It's the best. It's what you need to know. And that drives this show. We give you what you need to know. What you need to know, especially, is what's happening in these critical states like Georgia. I'm going to go back to our conversation with Julie Allen, who is one of the people who was at the convention in Georgia over the weekend, where the horrific tyranny of the Georgia GOP. And you had this supported by people in Conservative Inc. And it makes you wonder what's going on there, who's paying who. But I'm going to go back to Julie, and there's several guests here we have on this show. It was the Georgia show yesterday, and especially the third one, Field Searcy. I want you to hear the emotion in his voice as to what he is talking about and experiencing in the great state of Georgia. But back to Julie Allen. And I may kind of speed this up through the interviews just to get through it a little quicker to what I want you to hear. So if you see it skip, it's just me moving it forward.
The microphones. For instance, even nominating David Cross for Georgia GOP chair was done by someone who opposed him to block access from someone who would normally do it to the mic. It was all about controlling the mics. So that, did the will of the people occur yesterday? That's an open question. But clearly, the minority of the delegation in large number was disrespected. And I'll further state that a recording was made of a nominating committee interview. Mm-hmm. And the way that one of the candidates was treated, it's stunning. It does not represent me as a delegate. It should not be representative of the GOP at any level of the organization to ask a candidate if corporal punishment was used on them, by their parent, who happens to be the Republican National Committeewoman representing Georgia, and to state in that same interview that she deserved it. I mean, to threaten physical abuse, during a nominating committee interview, and for somebody who is a known loyalist to McCune to say in the context of the interview, ladies, this is not an inquisition. How does that represent who would want to join a GOP? Who would want to be a candidate, investing your time, talent, and treasure in a process that takes months? We started this convention process in February. To be a delegate at the convention, you had to participate in these conventions. You had to be put your name in. You had to be selected to even advance, to attend these conventions. The cost of attending the conventions, the first one is free, but to attend the Georgia GOP, convention, even as an alternate, whether you get to vote or not, we're talking exceeding $100 just for the cost of admission for one convention. The candidate forums, they drove around the state, hit many of the counties, and I'll just give a shout out. David Cross. If you look at his YouTube channel, it's Georgia Ballots, GABALLOTS. What an outstanding presentation of that process. He's in a professional way. Many of the forums. And these videos, these high quality videos that were produced, were at no charge to the Georgia GOP. You contrast that with the flyers that mailers that clearly campaign flyers for Josh McCune, that were 4-page glossy mailers that were sent out to delegates and charged to the Georgia GOP. So Lori McClain came out and said her name is on that, and she knew not. She's a treasurer. She knew nothing about that expenditure. So, who benefits? The cozy relationships with consultants and vendors. But yet David Cross provided all of this information in a high quality format produced by volunteers at no charge to anyone. To me, that was exciting to me, that those resources could have been unleashed within the GOP and there could have been a mobilization. To me, no one is perfect. Everybody misspeaks, whether you like, a candidate or not based on personality. Trump, as an example, I vote policy, not personality. And, you don't have to like someone to feel like they will be a leader that brings activities and resources to the party that are needed. And I'll just say, we were barraged with text messages the day of the convention, the days preceding the convention, and I put out a tweet about that in 2022. It was remarkable for the Trump-endorsed slate. Communication from the Georgia GOP or any level of GOP within Georgia was non-existent. I received no communication, no mailers, no phone calls, no text messages to say, hey, Republican, we know that you're registered to vote, but this is who we recommend that you vote for. None of that. Radio silence. Yet, the question of NDA, the question of ballot access, initially candidates were denied ballot access. Another objection, from yesterday was the amount of commentary that the convention chair was opining on candidates in advance of votes, that the nominating committee gave extremely biased, sharp criticisms of candidates that were not the McCoon slate. Top to bottom, there's been criticism of the Frost family and their relationship with the GRA. If anybody had any question yesterday, it was on full display that Katie Frost was the nominations committee chair, giving strong and sharp commentary about candidates as they were.
I can.
Gotcha.
Yes. So I wanted to get your thoughts, and I don't want to put any words in your mouth. So tell the audience what you think about what happened over the weekend.
Oh, listen, we participated in political theater. It was pretty obvious. I mean, when I was backstage about to give my speech, the technicians that were running the show were like, "Holy cow, they love you out there." He said that they were like, "This other guy's going to get his ass kicked," and and so anyway, it was just, I mean, it was pretty obvious. I mean, there were tons of people that were out there that were supporting, everything that we're trying to do, and it's just the results that we had are just not credible. And I think what we're going to have to do is, as Julie was saying before, Robert's Rules of Order was not followed at all. Mike Crane did a terrible job, running that convention, and then to top it all off, they decided to just adopt the rules without having discussion. And in order to do that, you need I think a 50% vote of the people. They didn't even take a vote. They just accepted it and moved on. So this was all political theater. The Frost family, man, it's amazing. They truly are a cancer on the Georgia GOP, because they wield their checkbook, like it's a billy club. And if you don't like it, they're going to beat you over the head with it. And what Krista Frost did to me and the other candidates on stage yesterday was abhorrent. I mean, she should never be able to run a nominating committee ever again. And honestly, our nominating committee shouldn't even exist. That's relic from before the internet era, when people didn't have access, to decent information. But they still use that as an opportunity to go up, on stage and smash me and smash everybody else. So it's pretty apparent what happened. And I got to tell you, yesterday's crowd was the loudest, most, it was the natives were restless and they wanted change. And boy, we got railroaded. And if you notice, the logo for the convention yesterday was a train going down the tracks. Yeah. We got railroaded.
Wow. So what happens next, David? What do you think?
What happens next is I'm having pizza with my wife because it's her birthday tomorrow. I'm going to hang out with her. Her birthday is actually on Monday. So, Monday birthdays are kind of a drag. So we're enjoying the day today. We're going to, we're having fun with each other. We're going out to, to visit with some friends in just a little bit. So we're going to kind of take it easy a little bit, relax. The Georgia GOP has a lot of work and self-reflection to do. And honestly, with all the things that I found, about Josh McCoon using the company credit card 14 times and giving his best friend, all this money, charges ought to be filed against him. I mean, like criminal charges should be filed against him.
Well, don't need any stronger than that. So do you have any thoughts, and you may not want to say, of appealing the convention? I've heard that floating around a little bit.
Yeah, the feeling of the convention was it was just, it was not that was, like I said, it was political theater. That was,
Yeah.
that, I don't want to use, like, foul language or anything like that, but I think what I'll tell you right now is if President Trump was at that convention, he would have said, "This is a shit show. This is ridiculous," and I think President Trump would have walked out, yesterday. I think he would have been disgusted with it. And what's stranger still is that, the people that are in charge of the Georgia GOP, none of them gave any money to Trump. So it's just, it's like I live in this world of crazy.
Yeah, we're going to work hard to get to the bottom of that paradigm for sure. Well, anything else you want to say, David? I know I caught you off guard by last minute getting on the show, but
yeah. So something that's critically important is, if you attended the convention tomorrow, if you're a viewer and you attended the convention, yesterday, sorry, if you attended the convention yesterday, and if you feel like everything was fine, then wonderful. Send me the messages and tell me everything was fine. If you think it was, if you think it was a terrible convention and we should have, and Robert's Rules of Order should have been followed, share your thoughts with me. Send them to email them to team@crossforgeorgia.com. If you happen to have any video or pictures or something like that, share them with me. I'd be curious to see kind of what other people think that attended, because I know what my perspective is, but I'm one of the candidates, and I would love to see what other people think.
David, thank you. Appreciate you coming on last minute. Take care. Have a good,
my pleasure, man.
Good
Thank
pizza
you.
with your wife. Take care.
All right, take.
So we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back on the Georgia show. We have Field Searcy and Antonio Jones coming along with some commentary. We'll talk about some of these issues in depth. Be right back.
Hey, it's Tucker Carlson. You may have noticed that the companies whose products you buy tend to kind of hate you. They're controlled by massive multinational corporations, and they have all kinds of weird agendas that you're supporting when you buy their products. We didn't realize that nicotine pouches, which we've used for years, were in this category. We just want a nicotine pouch. And then they lecture you and take the money you give them to support things that you hate. So we decided we're going to make our own, and we did. And it is, we can say, not bragging here, just stating fact, the single best nicotine pouch in the world. It's called ALP, and it comes in all kinds of excellent flavors. Wintergreen, tropical fruit, chilled mint, refreshing chill, sweet nectar, and a bunch of others that we're rolling out. By the way, there are 20 per tin, not 15 like some of our competitors who will not be named Zen. And they're in 3, 6, and 9 milligrams. It is the single best nicotine pouch ever made. Go to alppouch.com. You will not regret it.
Well, in the case of hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin, these are two medications that have been FDA approved for use in humans for decades. They are very, very inexpensive. Interestingly, available over the counter in almost every other country other than the US and Canada. You can just walk into a pharmacy and buy them like we buy Tylenol in much of the world because they're that safe. And we've known for decades that ivermectin has very strong antiviral properties. It has anti-inflammatory properties, and both ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine are what we call zinc ionophores. They help to move zinc from the bloodstream into the cell, which is where it needs to be in order to fight off a virus. So lots of application for these, and we have every reason to believe that those drugs also will likely have some efficacy against H5N1 or a number of other respiratory viruses that we may meet down the road.
Welcome back. I just want to highlight those two sponsors, alppouch.com/CDM. Ditch the woke Zen and get the Alp, a better experience, moisture, more in the tin, and just a better taste all around, a better experience. So please support us and support free media with alppouch.com. Don't forget the /CDM. And also go to the Wellness Company. Check them out. They're one of our best sponsors, twc.health/CDM. Promo code CDM, you get 10% off. Check out their medical kits. I've got some right here. This travel kit I take with me everywhere. The vaccine detox formulas, the online doctor visits, the subscriptions for free nutraceuticals and pharmaceuticals. check it all out. There's a lot there. I can't go through it all, but one of our best sponsors, protect your family, make sure they're good to go with an emergency medical kit for the next pandemic that comes our way. So a few things. Julie Allen, I forgot to mention, she wanted me to mention a few things. One, Robert's Rules of Order provides a structured framework for conducting meetings, ensuring fair and democratic decision-making. Its purpose is to facilitate orderly discussions, protect the rights of all participants, and balance majority rule with respect for minority opinions. This didn't happen. They were physically blocking the mic. If you try to reach for the mic, they will grab you as Debbie Dooley grabs Donna. Then they got the police and wanted to charge Donna with assault. The grassroots were abused. The Georgia 2025 GOP convention was a shit show, a grassroots clampdown. The Georgia grassroots came out for Trump. In her words, 26 has now been lost. Controlling factions of the Georgia GOP have sold us out. They did it in 2020. They bared it all yesterday. They do not want to win. It's all about control. I think that's right. We're going to talk about that a little more. We've got Field Searcy coming on here shortly at 2:30, and then Antonio Jones. If that doesn't work, then bear with us, because we're producing on the fly and put all this together at the last minute, because obviously we didn't know how yesterday was going to turn out, and so we've been trying to get people lined up. There was another photo. Well, let me just say that you need to understand as an audience what's going on, because I've said before, I'm in the Miami-Dade, or was until last December, in the Miami-Dade Republican Executive Committee down in Florida. And we saw the same thing there, a tyranny of the establishment, not following Robert's rules, not allowing discussions, literal tyranny from the top down. We had one situation where we were trying to get a rule passed. We put motions on the floor, and then the chairman told everybody to leave so there wouldn't be a quorum, and they couldn't pass anything. So this is the kind of stuff that's going on, and it's not just in Georgia. It's all around the country, Florida, Arizona, Michigan, and elsewhere. And you need to get it. You need to see the big picture, that this is destroying the grassroots, the Republican Party nationwide. That's what this is all about. And essentially, it's a Marxist revolution. And they don't want President Trump to win again. And guess what? They're trying to destroy the party so that he doesn't, so that you don't get in. And they don't, as Julie's text said, they don't want to win. They only want to control and prevent an effective party from being formed and to win elections. They don't care about elections. And I've said it before also, we've done a lot of reporting where they're taking money and misdirecting it inside the party. We're going to dig into more of that later as the weeks go by. But the arrogance of this is really astounding. And if you look at, this is a slide yesterday from Debbie Dooley, who we've talked about a lot on the Georgia Record, who's attacked us for being Islamic jihadi sympathizers. She says, "Victory cigar, we won big and dominated the Georgia GOP convention." So, let that sink in for a minute. I don't really, the gall, it's really wild. So we're going to talk with Field Searcy here in a second. I'm going to run another ad just because the first half hour we didn't do much at all, and then we'll wait for Field to come on. Be right back. If you haven't noticed, gold has reached a new high, all-time highs actually, and keeps going up every day. Why is that? It's because precious metals are a long-time historical store of value. And if you own a portfolio and you have assets in the fiat currencies, i.e. stocks, bonds, cash, or whatever, you're vulnerable to hyperinflation, which is coming as our debt explodes another trillion every 90 days. It's really scary. So how do you protect yourself? Go to Advisor Metals. If you look on any of our CDM.press sites, about halfway down, there's an ad for Advisor Metals. Click on it, fill out the form for your contact info, and Ira Bishotsky will contact you and talk to you. It's an easy conversation. There's no sales pitch. He's completely verified by us. He has a regulatory background we've checked into. We've checked with his bankers. We've checked with his IRA custodians for metals. And we can highly recommend Advisor Metals and IRA. So go to Advisor Metals. If you call them directly, tell them we sent you at CDM, and he'll definitely take care of you. But protect your portfolio, because you really need to. It's coming. Thank you. Well, we've got Field now. I'm going to bring him in. Field, thanks for joining me today, my friend. I appreciate you jumping on last minute.
Yeah. Good afternoon, Todd. How you doing?
Oh, we're busy, man. I don't want to put any words in your mouth. I want you to tell me what you thought of what happened over the weekend in Dalton.
Well, the last 3 days have been a whirlwind for Sam and I.
Mm-hmm.
We left early Thursday to drive up. He's on the state committee. and we left from Cairo. It took us 7 hours to get there. We got there barely at 4 o'clock to get him into the meeting in time. And of course, while he was doing that, I had some things to work on to get prepared for our with our volunteers. We have been preparing for several weeks now, maybe 4 or 5 weeks. We've been preparing to do an option to do paper ballots as a paper ballot counting option for the election. And we had trained over the last week, we trained about 120 or 30 people in the Cherokee method, which is developed by Tanya Sosa. She's from Cherokee County, but it's based on other trusted and verified hand counting methods around the country. But she modified it to comply with the Georgia law 212-437 of how a hand count should be done at the precinct. And so we did the training, and actually we had a training every night last week, is Monday through Thursday. And then on Saturday, we had another Friday, we had another training that afternoon, right after Garland's presentation on Executive Order 14248. But anyway, like I said, it's been a whirlwind. And then we reached out to the GOP leadership about a week and a half ago about being prepared. Let's collaborate how you might do this. The body, the people want to do it. I even asked Josh if we could do this. He said, well, it's going to be up to the body. It'll be up to the will of the body to do this. And so I felt like we were going to have a fair shot, at least, of having an opportunity to do paper ballots. Well, as you may have heard and gathered from other sources, that we had a convention, and it was perfectly depicted by the monitor with the railroad and the train up there. We had a railroad of a convention that destroyed any of the voice of the people. It was disgusting, I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's like when I say it's a whirlwind, I don't think God was happy about this weekend, because the way the people were treated and disrespected, as we were leaving and loading up our boxes, our T-shirts, and all of our supplies and everything, we had the back of our paper ballot wagon open, hand count roadshow open, and the storm came, and it was a tornado. Actually, we didn't even know it. It was the last stuff we got into the trailer. The wind started whipping and blowing. We had to get inside the trailer with the back flap down on the ground. The wind was just blowing in there, and several of us got soaked. And the trees started snapping, and
wow,
with the whole thing was just shaking. And if we hadn't been attached to the van, we might have flipped over. And the doors got blown off the front of the building at the same time. So this was after this whole display of being railroaded during that convention. And whirlwind is the right terminology, I think.
Well, several in the GOP establishment like to use God as they like to reference that because they think they're on the right side. It doesn't sound like what you're talking about.
Well, God has a way of getting people's attention. And the night before, we had prayer that we would be successful. And even if we didn't get the hand count option, that whatever happened would be God's will. And that morning, Saturday morning, we had all of our volunteers met out in front under the flags. And excuse me, we had prayer and anointing of all the people there too.
Yeah.
Over the process, the delegates, that hearts be opened. And but it wasn't God's timing apparently, because we didn't get that part of it done. But that's the emotional part of it for me.
Maybe he wanted everyone to see. Sometimes you just have to show them. Let me ask you this. I think part of this whole effort and the train and the railroading and the arrogance on social media is to demoralize the populace, the grassroots. Are the people demoralized or not?
They're very much demoralized. They're disenfranchised. They feel like their voice is not heard. And there's a saying that goes back 15 years when I first got involved in the GOP, was keep it small, rule it all. And that's the way I feel, that that's how they're running things, and not sure where. Well, I know where Sam and I are going. We're gonna continue the paper please movement, and we're gonna listen to what God says and where we should go, and then we don't know where that's going to be yet.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if that's going to be within. I don't think that we're going to get election integrity through the party. We had a perfect opportunity to do a hand count. We had done analysis on how long it would take based on the city of Milton did a hand count, and we felt like we could do it, probably within an hour we'd be able to count the ballots and return the first round of results. And it took an hour to hand out the clickers. And they didn't have them tested, and we had to test them. And the tests they used for it were totally a bogus sham test, Todd.
Yeah.
You press 1 for this, 2 for this, 3 for that. Well, the questions they were asking, there was no way to validate that the results are correct. So they asked if you believed if you were a Georgia fan or from some other fan.
Yeah.
Well, the numbers came up there. They didn't total up to the number of people in the delegation. But how do you know how many people are Georgia fans and how many people are not? How many people have an Android phone versus how many people have an Apple phone, an iPhone? So there was no way to validate. So, I mean, even a monkey could have done that test because it's just bogus. I said, I got up to the mic. Once we someone was actually get to the mic, which they blocked the mics. There's many stories about that. I'm sure we'll get reports from others. But I asked the question, how are these things tested? This test is a total bogus sham test. I said, you should ask the question, and I'm going to paraphrase it differently than I did yesterday, but I said, how many people were born on the moon and how many people were born on Earth? And you should have the number should be 17 or 13 were born on Earth, right? I didn't say that quite that way yesterday because I was in the heat of the moment. I used a couple of different analogies about it, but the point is still the same. There's no way to validate. And for a party that says they believe in election integrity, they had the perfect opportunity to prove it. Because the RNC has resolutions that support hand-marked paper ballots. The Georgia GOP Election Integrity Task Force has resolutions supporting hand-marked paper ballots. You have Trump Executive Order 14248 supporting hand-marked paper ballots. We did hand-marked paper ballots in the 2nd District, the 11th District, and the 14th District. That just less than 60 days ago, and we used the same Cherokee method in the 2nd District. So, and we've even gotten and perfected from what we did that time. We had more time to think about it, more time to make sure all the bases were covered. But I tell you what, every step of the day, Friday, the Lord opened the door for the next thing we need to do because we were so busy talking, setting up, but He opened the door for the next thing we need to find out about. Where we're going to be, where would we do the count? How we put the tables, how we make sure we have chain of custody protected. But we actually never got an opportunity to present any of this to the leadership.
That test is kind of like the QR code when you vote and you get your ballot back as a QR code. You voted, but you don't know what's in there, right?
You don't know what's in there. And that's the thing that's why the ballot marking devices we use now, the risk limiting audit they do, the creator of the risk limiting audit where they say they do a hand count of the ballots. That's Dr. Philip Stark. He created the method. He says the risk limiting audit has no value when you use a ballot marking touchscreen device because the voter's intent is never known. Because once you take your key card out of the ballot marking device, what you saw on the screen is erased. Nobody will ever know what was shown to you on that screen. There's no way to ever know.
Yeah.
And so the voter intent is never known with the existing electronic voting system we have now. So that's why we've been going for hand-marked paper ballots. We believe that Georgia law already supports it through the emergency ballot procedures. We can scan those ballots through the tabulator. We'll get a result that night. But we need to do a hand count before the race is certified. And it's supposed to be done at the precinct. They do a full hand count. Now you have a matching number from the hand count. You can match the machine count, and you have some validation that these results are accurate and you can trust it.
Yeah.
Ultimately, like to get rid of the tabulator too. I mean, the whole country of Taiwan, 24 million people, they have 1 day voting, hand-marked paper ballots, and they count them at the precinct the day of the election. And the reason they do that is they're worried about foreign influence in their elections.
Sure.
And Taiwan is they're pretty smart people. I mean, they make a lot of our microchips, but they're worried about Chinese influence in their elections. So they want to maintain the sovereignty of their elections.
Yeah.
Well,
I was going to say, I would encourage you to regroup, and you're the tip of the spear. So you guys got to find a way forward, and we'll help you get that word out. But wow, anything? How do people follow you, Field? I mean, what's the best way to get involved?
The best way to get involved is to go to georgiansfortruth.org, and that's spelled out FOR, Georgians for Truth. Or you can find us on X. We do most of our communication on X as far as updates is Georgians #4 Truth. We also have a Rumble channel. It's the Grady County Boys, and we post our 3 or 4 minute skits and things like that there. And those are the best ways. But you always need to get on our email list. If you go to Georgians for Truth, we send out email blasts about what's going on, how to get involved in the next state election board, or we're going to do a press conference or anything that's happening in the area of election integrity. We really would appreciate all the grassroots to get in behind us.
Well, we're still in the fight, so the battle is ahead of us. So, Phil, thank you for your time last minute, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for hanging with us there through Georgia. I just wanted you to know what's going on in Georgia because it's likely, well, I know it's going on in other states, especially like Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. So the party is infiltrated, and we have to find a way to break this barrier that's keeping the grassroots out of power. It's definitely happening in Georgia. Georgia's extremely tyrannical, and the people that are supporting this tyrannical regime in the Georgia GOP need to be exposed as well. And we're going to work on that going forward. I want to just bring to you one thing, and that is, we've talked about it before, but I want to talk about it again. The Manhattan.press, our New York paper, and the Manhattan Best Sellers List. Let me just bring up the paper so you can see it. The Manhattan.press. If you go to the Manhattan.press, top right corner, click on the Manhattan Best Sellers. You can see all of the best-selling books across the country. These are editors' picks, but you can go into adult nonfiction, adult fiction, politics, history, young adult fiction and nonfiction, fiction and nonfiction for children. And you can drill down into these segments. Like if you want to get into like history, for instance, you can drill down and get all of the best-selling books on history. And this is not just the best-selling conservative books. These are the best-selling books in the United States, bar none. There's no bias. We just collect the numbers and put it out. The New York Times is a lot of bias. So think of this as the conservative New York Times bestsellers list at the Manhattan.press, the Manhattan bestsellers list. So check it out. You can buy the books. If you go down below, let's say you want one of the books, you can check it out and buy the book on our bookshop. And you can buy all books on the bookshop. If you go to cdm.press, top menu, CDM bookshop, it'll take you to this page where you can search for any book, buy any book, buy them from us. Don't buy them from the big box retailers or online from Amazon when you're supporting those who hate you. So support free media. It's a great way. Everybody buys books for the summer read, for the beach, for gifts, for school, for business, whatever, for education. Buy them from us. Don't buy them from the Matrix. So with that, that's all we got today. We're going to be back tomorrow. I think we're going to have Laura Logan on soon, probably tomorrow, but she's busy, so we'll see. We're also going to have Brandon Weichert on again very soon to talk about everything LA and the riots and the infiltration and the war and the invasion of the United States and the military response that is coming. Stay with us. We'll be back tomorrow, 10 to noon, Monday through Friday Eastern on the SCIF. We'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining us today.